Mike Halpin, welcome to the Process Podcast, my friend. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. I'm very much looking forward to this conversation, Mike.
Yeah, right. It's a good time for it.
It is a good time for it because the CrossFit Open has just finished. We
Hmm.
are like well underway in the official CrossFit season,
We're
which has just
here.
kicked
Yeah,
off.
yeah,
And I think many people don't know that you are the guy behind Knowable. And when I say many people, I'm going to speak on behalf of myself. I think I told you this when we met recently in Abu
yeah.
Dhabi. We were both working at the Crucible.
Hmm.
You were the stats guy, and in all of the chats that we were on the emails and WhatsApp, you were just Mike Halpin, and I was like, "Who's this
Yeah.
guy? Don't know him. Don't know anything about him." And then met you in Abu Dhabi, and someone straight away said something about Nona Noble. And we're like, oh, Mike's the guy behind Nona Noble, that Instagram account. And I was like, whoa, hang on a minute. I know that account. I've followed that account for, I don't know how long I followed
Appreciate
that
it.
account for.
Appreciate the
Puts
follow.
out some really good stuff. Yeah. And then only then, this is like despite weeks of like, all this conversation and back and forth, I realized, this is a guy. So who is Mike Halpin?
Oh, wow. Start there. So I am 42 years old from Ohio. Uh, and recently a gym owner. But all of that has come out of finding CrossFit and finding this way of life about, well, exactly the summer of 2020 when my local YMCA closed down. So I had to find something else to do, so I started doing CrossFit workouts in my gym. And then uh, from there, just kind of found a lot of the different media folks out there, started watching a lot of the old CrossFit games, a lot of the Savan documentaries. Obviously, 21 and 22 is when Hiller really took off. I was in one of his first year videos there, um, where I dove into different stats. And so, a big thing of like, and you were going to ask me about this, I think, is like how Known and Knowable came to be, right? I don't like to talk about myself too much, so I'm changing the subject for you.
Yeah, that was a quick diversion. I like it.
Is I found that there's a lot of space between the conversations around CrossFit, and that can be CrossFit affiliates, that can be CrossFit workouts, that can be CrossFit games, really just CrossFit fill in the blank after that. Uh, is that and then the actual like stats and things behind it. So like if you say like, hey, this person's done this many times, it sort of like fades off a little bit in certain conversations, and there's pieces where it's like, yeah, but who are those athletes and who and what are they doing? Or what are the changes coming into the next season? Or how is obviously it's something I've done the last few years. How is the open going and what does it look like? How many people are doing it? Where are they from? Is there peaks and valleys and different things like that? So so yeah, one of my first big items was being promoted in an Andrew Hiller video about I think it was a time. This really gets in the weeds quick, but it's like quarterfinals or semifinals. Like the first year they did like some of that like American East, American West, or like the Atlas Games and a few different others. They had these athletes going like cross country different ways across the United States. And so I redid it and basically did based on their gym location where they should go if it was like a regional style. So if you were in the northeast of the United States, you would go to the Atlas Games or something like that. If you were in the southwest, you would go to the I don't remember at the time, but like the West Coast Classic or something like that, and Granite Games and Mac and whatever else there was. So I did that, and it was a good amount of notoriety. I actually met a colleague of now of ours that we worked with at the Crucible, Brian Friend, through a lot of that. I have this odd text that I saved, and I bring it up sometimes with him, where I'm just basically like, "Hey, I want to get more into this. What should I do?" And he's like, "I honestly don't know." Come to find, he was like really sick. He just had like a cold or something. But it was like he sent me such like a weird text back. Um, and then we got to chatting and kind of went from there. Um, but yeah, the big known and knowable has definitely changed, and it changed for a lot of reasons a couple years ago. But originally it was I found that there was a lot of athletes, maybe athletes in the Asia area that weren't getting much highlight, and we didn't know about them as much as we knew about like five American athletes. And so there was a
Mm.
piece of it as well that was like make some of these athletes more known and knowable. And also the play on the words, obviously, of the unknown and unknowable when it came to CrossFit, where I found a lot CrossFit would use that term almost as like a shield in some ways, if that makes sense. Where it was like, well, unknown and unknowable would be like the fill in for why something didn't go right, or why like a 5K isn't truly a 5K, or why something happened or didn't happen. It's like, well, expect the unexpected, the unknown and unknowable. And I found that filling that in with more data, with more insights into rule changes, insights into different things going on, the open, you can start to bridge that gap when it comes to conversations where it's not just like, well, it'd be great if we knew this stat or great if we knew how this was going. It's like, well, here, let's go find it and let's discuss it and let's figure that out. So through that, it went to a lot of different ways. I think I just spoke for
Have
all.
you
Ask me a question about any of that, Ed. Come on.
uh, have you always been a stats guy? Has that been like, pre? I think what I find interesting is that you actually came into the space of CrossFit quite late, and I think you're probably one of the
Yeah.
most knowledgeable because of the nature of what you do, which is geeking out over data and
Mhm,
going out of your way to find what the data actually is.
mhm,
In all realms of CrossFit, we're not just talking about athletes. Like you do some really cool stuff around this time of year around open participation. You did this really cool thing for me where you actually told me a little bit about my gym and like
mhm.
you could extract the history of CrossFit CSTL
Yeah.
and what we've achieved. Like you got all this crazy knowledge. And for someone who's only really been in it for 6 years,
Mhm.
I find wild. So like, where is this like love for data and like finding this stuff out? Where'd that come from?
Probably ADHD, just uncontrollable ADHD. Uh, but yeah, I just dove right into it. There's things where I've been interested in, and I just kind of jump into them head first, and then you figure it out from there. I've used this analogy with a few folks talking to like people at my gym. It's like because I've been a coach, I've gotten my L2 in the last couple of years, different things like that. Um, is it's kind of like CrossFit. Like I didn't go to school for stats or data or anything like that. I actually have a religion degree, but which is a whole separate podcast. But you just learn it every day, right? Like we didn't show up as Olympic weightlifters, we didn't show up as gymnasts, we didn't show up as like whatever specialty might you might get to learn through a CrossFit gym, but by showing up every day, exercising some of those muscles, you just learn it over time, and then all of a sudden you're hitting a new PR in a lift, or you're doing the open way better than you might have previously done, and you just build it after that. Like I looking at gym ownership or coaching or just being at a gym, like you can see that method of just like, yeah, you just show up and try something out of the hopper every single day, and then you learn it from there. So the same thing goes with all this data stuff. Like I just learned it by trying it, figuring it out, finding the sources of where some of this data is sitting, and just compiling it together.
So if I kind of repeat that back to you,
Hmm.
when you started No Noble, it was just out of your own interest for wanting to know more about what's actually happening in this new thing that you're kind of obsessed with and exploring yourself with your own training. Then Hiller finds you, kind of like puts you on a bigger platform
Hmm.
because you're at 18.1K followers, right? I've got your page opened up here.
Yeah. Oh.
And I'm like, how did that trajectory change? Like you're putting stuff out, and has the goals of No Noble, like, do you have like a definitive why behind why you keep on investing so much time into like getting stats and sharing them with the world?
Um, there's a bit of everything in there over the last few years, but in the last 2 years or so, and you could kind of pinpoint it to the day almost, it's changed a good bit. So I would say pre 2024 games, it was a lot more kind of we were talking about before. There's stats that are out there, people just aren't realizing them. There's more information about these lesser known athletes that's out there. And lesser known is still the best person you've ever seen in the country, the best person you've ever seen in the region, the best person you've ever seen in definitely your gym. But it's when it comes to semifinals or games, it's these athletes where you get 2 hours about, and no offense to the queen, Tia Clark Toomey, but like you get 2 hours about Tia and you get 5 seconds about Ann Haynes. Uh, what a guy. So uh, so with that, it was a lot of that in the early days. It was a lot of I actually worked with all the semifinals. There was a language barrier maybe between myself and Far East Throwdown, and some of the others, but I tried to work with all the semifinals in 2023 to give them data packages about every single athlete that was competing in the semifinals. I used that. I was part of the broadcast team for the Orlando, North America East, working with Sean and Chase and a few folks. Um, but otherwise, I was trying to get that data just out there in people's hands that hopefully somebody would highlight an athlete. So I did surveys of 300 athletes to figure out, hey, what's the story? Are you also a teacher or a fireman or a police officer? Or is this your first year competing? Is this your 20th year competing and you finally made it? What does that look like for you? Um, and getting a lot of that out there. I would say the day one of the 2024 CrossFit Games, though, everything since does have at least a taste in my mouth that I don't really like, where I was present in front row and center for things that happened. I wasn't obviously part of them, but I was a bystander or a media person within that. And so everything from there has just changed. I can just call it out. The tone that I talk about some of these things, or like how some of these things look, or even if I did open registration data in 2023 and 2024 going into the 24 games, and then it did it in 2025 and now 2026, the connotation in which somebody sees me posting about open data looks different because of things that I've said or reactions I've had to that 2024 games, where I can't help but agree in some ways that yes, things that happen there, things I disagree with, things I disagree with how CrossFit is managed or structured or whatever it might be. There is a connotation to that, but and that's where I've seen like the last 2 years change a little bit. Is I'm still sharing the same data though. Like I'm still making sure that the data is as valid as I can make it, sourced from the best places I can get it from, which is in this case CrossFit themselves, and then shared as widely as I can share it with the 18.1 thousand people that happen to not follow me. Yeah.
When this all started, it was just volunteer work, right? You weren't getting paid for this. It was just
Mm,
really just sharing something you were passionate and interested in.
yeah.
And then obviously this has led, I think what's cool are the opportunities that this has led for you
Yeah,
now.
right.
When we were at Crucible, you were saying like, this is my first paid gig as an analyst.
Yeah.
Was that right? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So most everything, and you'll see this even I know people that were just at Wadapalooza or that were just that work the games, and you see it like the people doing I would say 90% of those jobs, they're doing it on their PTO from their day job, and they're doing it for free. They may have gotten a hotel, they may have gotten some kickback, some free pair of shoes or something, but yeah, Crucible was definitely the first paid gig. And then kind of riding that through, getting to get that on my kind of resume and then building it from there. So I'm trying to build that out a good bit further. But I would say, yeah, 6 years in now of doing, well, 6 years of CrossFit, but like 3 years, really 4 years of doing this. Yeah, paid gigs are finally coming, which is appreciated for sure.
Damn, that's so cool. I think it's so cool because of the world of social media and seeing how prevalent it is in this day and age. I mean, even for me, Crucible and what that's now led to, World Fitness Project, we're going to be working together in London.
Yes,
um
sir.
and if I didn't have a social media profile and had put energy and time into sharing the things I'm passionate about, none of these things would have happened. And I
Yeah.
can list 100 other things that probably happened to me, that's been really great over the years, professionally and personally, that have all come from doing that. So I always really just, if everyone's sitting on a mountain of
Love that,
knowledge
man.
and so good stuff to share, like get it out there and share it more. And I think you're a really good case study as to like, yeah, what can happen from that.
Yeah, and it is a thing of like you don't really realize where you are until you kind of look back sometimes at where you came from and how it started. Like I was I mean still today, most everything I do is me just looking at like Google Sheets and like putting things together, and we work together on Crucible, feeding different people data and just saying like, hey, I think this could lead to a conversation or open up kind of a different view. And then just going from there. Like, but you don't really realize there's hundreds of thousands of us that have these ideas that are starting these Instagram accounts that are getting different notoriety from different places. Like people should try. Like like it is a thing where it's like, yeah, just go and try it. Just go and do it. And I think that's the feedback I got from like Brian or different people was just like, well, just keep doing it. Like whether you're doing it for one person or 18,000 or whatever number, crazy number, but like just keep doing it and keep applying it, and then kind of see where it goes and see where you well also what it starts to be see where you're benefiting people and they're reciprocal, and then see where that kind of isn't happening and veer towards what you want to do. Like I can't imagine still showing up to do things that I wouldn't want to do in the first place and then being like, ah, well, I got to do it. Like, and there is obviously people in those jobs every single day. There's people in CrossFit gyms that are feeling that way too, but like find the best in it and go from there. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, Mike, my question
Yeah.
is around actually collecting these stats, like getting the
Yes.
data in. Because I remember in this day and age, I mean, now having been able to spend time with you, you kind of opened your laptop up one day and we're like, this is how
Hmm.
I'm collecting data right now. And I was like, holy shit, this guy has like, you've automated so much stuff, and this your computer is basically just working 24/7 and extracting data and all these different things that you're interested in. But I'm more interested in like back in the day when I, first started following Knowable. I say back in the day, it's not actually that long ago. But
Yeah.
seeing the stats that you were putting out, what I was always really interested in as an affiliate owner and a coach in the space and someone, I've just done my 13th CrossFit Open. I'm
Yeah.
always wanting to know, is this thing that I invest so much time and resources into, is this growing or is it shrinking? That's like an age
Oh,
old question I'm always asking.
yeah.
And I've always found it very hard to find clear answers on that, right? And I think one of the things that a lot of people use is CrossFit Open participation, even though that shouldn't really have a direct bearing on whether CrossFit as an organization overall is growing. It kind of is like the only um accessible statistic that a lot of people can
Mhm.
see. But even then, it's not that accessible because it's just all we're seeing is just pages and pages of names.
Yeah.
And there's all these divisions. It's actually really still hard to discern, is this thing growing year on year?
Yeah.
So something you've always done, and you put this on your stories, is just showing these kind of trend graphs of like, every day leading into the open. I can't remember how far back the window starts,
Whatever the
but
registration
basically,
is. Yeah. Yeah.
right, yeah, okay. As soon as registration opens, how
Mhm.
many people have actually registered for the open? And then this year, you've been showing, you do this every year, I believe, but the year on year stats, you got
Mhm.
different lines for different years. And it allows us to really see, like, compared to last year or 3 years ago, is this thing growing? But I always used to wonder, I used to think, because I didn't know who you were, obviously, I just saw Noble. I was like, some dude just sitting there on the CrossFit Open
Oh,
website. And he's
basic.
literally looking for a new name every time a subscription happens, and he adds that to some database or spreadsheet or something. How were you doing it?
Yeah.
And then how are you doing it now?
Yeah. There's a few of us data folks that have all figured out that CrossFit's leaderboard has a API behind it. I'll throw out a bunch of terms here, but like there's code sitting behind the leaderboard that sits there and feeds whatever you. So if you press next page, it then feeds it again. So I've built a system that routinely I will just go and grab every page. Well, this is the open process. I will just go routinely every day. So I put a timestamp on there. And it's like 12 noon every day. I'll just go and sit there and grab every single page, add them all together, and that does that. There are people that kind of just you count the number of pages and you count how many people are on a page and you just kind of do the napkin math. I found ways that are better for me. And then also what you can extrapolate out gets really nerdy really quick. But like if you pull every page, you can kind of sit there and see like the ebbs and flows of that, like how many affiliates there are, how many countries are involved, how many new registrations versus existing, well, returning registrations do you see? Like, what's the age range of some of these new registrations, things like that. You can start to pick all that together because you're just sitting on a pile of data that you sort of dug up every day. Um, that was the until this year process, and then AI is really taken over as far as just asking a computer to go figure all that out, and then it can do it in like way faster than me sitting there adding pages together or whatever it might be.
Okay, let's get straight into
Yeah.
stats for this year.
Yeah.
So what's your biggest takeaway from the data that you were tracking specifically for this year's CrossFit Open?
Biggest takeaway. That there is an upward trend or a return, I would say, from the previous year, where 2024 was about 345, 344,000. 2023 dropped by over 100,000 to around 235, and now we're seeing it return a little bit to like just over 260,000 if you include the adaptive divisions, which I do. So there's like 1,000 or so from the adaptive division out of that. With that, it is a good return. It's hard to say exactly what CrossFit expected, and I don't know those answers, right? I mean, they just did either let go or fire, or Dawnfall was no longer there right after some of this came out. I don't imagine it was directly related. I think there's been some bubbling conversations there that to go down into that. Like CrossFit's been up for sale for a year, but so were they expecting 10%? They got about 8% growth year over year. But good to see. I mean, as an owner of a CrossFit gym, I had 30, I think 30 at one gym and about 20 at the other. Um, that we were getting as many people as we could registered. So we want to see that growth. I mean, that the open registration is the single moment a year that you can kind of just gauge a temperature or like a barometer on how things are going, what the pressure is, like what some of that looks like. So I can see it trending in the right direction. I don't know if it's trending as much as people in ownership or leadership may have wanted it to, but yeah.
Did you forecast that happening? Did you forecast? I mean, I know we all saw the massive
Mhm.
drop in 2024. Lots of things happening. I mean,
Yeah,
we obviously the Lazar thing, and then
yeah,
lots of change in the media team. Greg Glassman, like it was just
yeah.
a crazy 12, 24 months, which I think a lot of people made the decision to not partake. But did you estimate that it would bump up as much as it did this year?
I thought there would be a bump up. I was estimating like 250. So it went above that, which, but I think some people were seeing it bump higher. If you watch it every day, it's kind of like watching like a weather forecast or things like that. You can start to feel it a little bit.
Mm.
Um, Again, just staring at numbers every day, you could just get it's like watching the Matrix, right? It's like you just see green and then it kind of makes sense to you. Um, but with that, it's like you can start to see the trend and how it starts to move. So like one thing, and I've talked to people that used to work at CrossFit, pretty high positions, is the last 10 days or 8 to 10 days is 50% of the total registration. So me sitting there and adding it up every single day from day 50 out, like you're gonna see just some days where it's like a lot and then a little and a little and a little and then a lot. But 10 days out, you can just take that number and double it and you get to be pretty close. So, I mean,
And that's consistent every year, Mike.
pretty much. Yeah. Or
So
it
and
has been. Last year was actually different. It was low for a very long time, and then in the last 5 days, it doubled.
Hmm.
So it was hard to tell going into this year if it was going to be even higher because it had the possibility looking at last year that it could double late. Yeah.
I think it's like, that's really interesting because I think listening to this podcast, a lot of people are competition organizers or event organizers. I mean, we know we are at our gym as well,
Yeah.
and we see that trend all the time, right? You can put out an event and start advertising it 3 months in advance and feel like, fuck, we're not gonna hit these numbers, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, there's two things that happen. Number one, businesses start panicking when, well, inexperienced businesses who don't understand this trend start panicking and start, tripling the marketing,
Yeah.
in the last week or two because they start shitting themselves and not going to hit their numbers. But then there is this natural uptake anyway of signups. And I think they see it in marketing as well. Whenever you put sales on, Black Fridays and
Yeah.
11/11s, it's like nothing will happen until you put up that post that says sales ending in 24 hours, and then suddenly it just goes bonkers. So I think there's definitely something to be learned there from event organizers and people who use deadlines
Yeah.
for signups or sales.
Yeah, exactly. Like saying that the Open 26.1 closes on Monday at whatever time. Um, you see a big wave of people that are putting it in the last minute. Now, there's some gaming with that. There's like elite athletes that don't want to share their scores, and somehow you'll have somebody at your gym that's like, "Well, I'm waiting until Monday." It's like, "Well, you could have put your score." No
Yeah.
offense, but you probably could put your score in. But you see a good bit of that, and people following the trends of the elite athletes. But like, there's also just, oh well, I'm gonna save my $20 and take it out of my bank at the last second that I need to. Like, and you do see those trends as well, is people that look at it and go, well, I can still do the workouts. I'm still with my community on a Friday night or whatever it might be at your gym. I'm still doing it. I can just keep my $20, or $20 is more of a stretch this year than it has been previous years. And
Mm.
so we start to look at those places as well. And obviously you see it in your gym. I see it in mine is retention, like stickiness towards different events, like hosting a competition or hosting an event or hosting just like a happy hour or whatever it might be. The people that you can get signing up for every single thing every single year, building into that, having that broader base of stickiness and return rates, seeing that is also a trend that's good to see when it comes to CrossFit. So one of the things that I did look at is like return rates, and I'll be sharing a lot of this on my social media over the next couple weeks. Um, is how many signed up for the very first time, how many signed up for the 16th time, and like yourself, how many are somewhere in between. Um,
Mm.
and looking at that is how many more did they sign up new this year than they did previous years, and then also how many returned. And so that's where I was talking about before, is that we are seeing a return. There's people that took last year off, either out of, you could call it anything you want, but out of what happened at the 2024 games, or the increase to affiliate fees, or de-affiliating and not having a gym to really do the open in, or a lot of different reasons. People finding a way to do the open again this year and returning. We can see that actually happening. So you can see people that were rock steady for 12 years straight, didn't do last year, are back doing it again this year, and it's good to see. You want to see any business succeeding, especially if you have a affiliate or some sort of even knowable that's sort of in some way does better when the whole thing does better. So that's good to see as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was actually going to be exactly what my follow-up question. So I don't know if you have the stats on that now, but what's your just generally looking over the data of that big bump up since 2024, returning versus new participants? What's it roughly looking like?
So last year's return rate was like 70%. Um, I look mostly at the new rate. So like I know the new rate was sub 30 last year, of like how many new, just brand new athletes are considered new. Um, so never done the open before. And
Never
then
done
this
the
year was around like 35%, but the whole thing went up obviously. So that 35% is actually growth. Or that 5% difference is actually growth there. And then returning, I need to look exactly at like the people that almost showed as like taking 1 year off. It's hard to tell, obviously. People could be injured, pregnant, whatever they might be, to take a
Yeah.
year off, but not just associated with different things going on socially or politically or otherwise. But like didn't do last year, did this year, returning, coming back. That is up as well. I don't have the exact number, but yeah, that looks good.
Nice.
And then you can also see the trend of people that have done it 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 plus years, um, of those folks that are they just keep coming back and keep doing it. And that's the stickiness piece that you look at, is who are the people at your gym that have been there however many years your gym's been open and some point in between, and then how do they kind of navigate the open, or what do they do, and are they still as thrilled to do the thing year after year, or are they just more like, hey, I come in and I do my class and then I'm fine to leave? Yeah.
Yeah. What was a feeling in your gym? Like, with that, if you imagine, it
Mhm.
must be hard for you to separate knowing the stats and the data
Yeah.
and then just observing what you see in your gym. But in your gym in the Open this year, did you feel like there was more hype for it, people more up for it relative to last year? Or what did you observe?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the best observer because I have my own feelings about it, right? I'll just say I didn't register for the open. But the feeling around the gym was good. What I've found, especially over the last few years, is that is my community. So I just want to make sure I'm saying that the right way. So
Yeah.
like that is my community. Friday Night Lights, me judging or emceeing or whatever it might be, on those nights is like great for me, great hopefully for the people I'm judging, and all of that. So, and then just physically, we have a fairly small. Well, we have two gyms now, but the gym that we opened 2 years ago, right before the open started, in 2024. Uh, it's not a shoebox, but it's like it's not a huge gym either. So like there's a cool excitement like just getting 30, 40, 50 people to like throw down and do the open in like a in a small space and be really excited about it. Theme nights and superhero nights and whatever else. It is throwing it down. And then I'll just say we in the last few months we bought another gym. It's a 15-year-old gym. Well, even older than that. They started in 2009. They de-affiliated a couple years ago, just became like a functional fitness gym. Weren't I love the people there. I'll be there tomorrow morning with them, but weren't as excited about doing the open. Now, obviously, they de-affiliated and we re-affiliated because of the coaches wanting and the community wanting to do that, right before the open started, but weren't they've been doing it for
Yeah.
15 plus years. Like, well, not like basically since the open started, they've been doing it. So like, it's hard to really put that on them to say like, hey, they're not as excited or not as thrilled. They've just been doing it way longer, and it just like, oh, yep, here it comes again. The coaches got to go put down all the tape and go through all the things. And there's people that like doing that, and there's people that are just sort of like, yep, I got to spend my next 3 Fridays doing this thing, and you feel that in the community, right? Like you can feel that difference when it's like, hey, we're a 2-year-old affiliate. We've been just doing this. It's the anniversary of the gym opening, basically. And then a 15-year-old affiliate. So like we've only worked with that gym for the last couple months. So like I don't know the people to really cast any judgment or really even speak for them in any way. But you can just see the difference when you're kind of looking at both and saying like, hey, how excited are you to do the open again? It's like, yep, we do it every year. It's here again, sort of thing. Versus, yeah, we're excited to do it.
Yeah. What are you seeing in the age groups, Mike? What are you seeing in the age groups from the teens to the masters? Obviously, every year that CrossFit rolls around, I feel if we've got more and more people returning, that means everyone's getting older. Like,
Yeah.
are we seeing those age groups participation numbers going up? Are they going down? Yeah, tell me.
So the median age of anyone doing the open, age groups or otherwise, like 14, whatever they make it, 14 to 70 plus at this point, right? The median age is 35. And it starts there.
Interesting.
So, and as you go, and I'll definitely put this out there soon, as you go for how many years they've done the open, it literally just goes up a year almost. Like
Mm.
it is like if you've been doing the open 10 years, you're probably 40 plus doing it, which means that the people that were doing it 14, it's hard to say at 24 they're still doing it, or the people that doing it 25, it's hard to say they're 35 because you can just see those numbers just move that direction. When we look at it from age groups, it's always hard to tell because they just group them. So like the people 35 to 39 doing that age group are
Yeah,
35
true.
to 39. But the trend line of just total open participation has aged a year nearly every year. So it was it was very exciting to do in 2011. If you're still doing it in 2026, you're probably 15 years older. If you started in 2013 like yourself and done it every year, you're probably 25 then and 38 now. Am I right so far? um, So it kind of looks like that. But I'm part of the exception. I started CrossFit when I was 39, and now I'm no 38, whatever it might be. Now I'm about to be 43. So there's people that are still jumping in, but it's also people my age that are jumping in. So you kind of have to look
Yeah.
at that. And so one thing you do look at when it comes to age groups is like it's great to see 70-plus-year-olds jumping in and doing the open or just doing a CrossFit in general, right? Um, the place that I don't see enough attention on, this is my version of it, is the teens. Like that is the next games winner is probably within that group. And that group continues to just be sort of static around a couple thousand athletes. Now, out of those thousand, there might be the next T. Claire Toomey or Matt Fraser or Rich Froning, but like there's only that many. They're not really
Yeah.
pushing in up those numbers. We're just seeing more people 35 plus or 30 plus that are jumping in, and
Yeah.
that's a part of what I look at as well is of that new contingent. So the people who have never done the CrossFit Open before, what's the median age there? I think it's still like 34 across.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so what basically, like we're seeing in the world, we have an aging population in CrossFit,
Hmm.
right? So we've got the participation median age, average age going up and up and up, but the grassroots, the youngsters, is not. That's basically maintaining. You know what I find interesting there is I don't know. I think I'd never really asked myself what the answer to that question would be, as in what would the average age of an open participant be? Obviously, look at my own gym and probably say 35. 35 is probably around bang on, I'd say.
Hmm.
But what I do like about that stat is because I think a lot of people view a public perception around CrossFit is it's like something you got to do when you're young, robust, and resilient. And as you get older, and for most people, that's around like the mid 30s,
Yeah.
you need to find something more sustainable and easier on the body. But the fact that this is still, the numbers are bumping up and up
Yeah.
and up. And I know we can't just take this for gospel. There's a lot of things within this. Um, I think generally speaking, more resilient, more bought into their health and fitness type people are the ones that stick around and do this over and over again. But I do think that's cool. Even when I think about marketing, my own gym and my own programs, I'm thinking about the fact that of 250,000 plus people in the world doing this thing, 35 is the average age, which means like if you're in that age group, like there's a lot of people your age as well still doing this and still able to make this sustainable for years to come. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, I mean, again, you can take the data and bend it whichever way you want. I put the data
Yeah.
out there so that we can have conversations like this and so people can take it and say glass half full, glass half empty when you look at sort of these things, right? Is I got into it at the age exactly that we're talking about. There's people that are getting to be those ages where they need to be getting into this and need a coach and need somebody showing them, hey, gyms aren't scary. They're not just full of bros. Like they're not just bench for 5 minutes, rest for an hour, and then bench again. Like there's people that are actively going to classes. There's groups and getting people socially together is like even a big part of that. And you see like this whatever word you want to put on it, epidemic or whatever, of like people that are just again, I like video games and I like doing all these other social things, but like you just see these people where it's like you're gonna float towards something most likely. Floating towards at the age of 35 plus, floating towards something that can make you feel younger and like actually build sickness to wellness to fitness, like is a big deal that should be celebrated when you look at it as okay, well the age of the average CrossFit Open
Mm.
participant is getting older. It's like, well, good, because these people, as they get older, they need this even more. I want to see more 70 plus people doing this. At the same time, if you're talking about sustainability of a company, sustainability of a brand, and like getting more people involved, seeing the teenage or the early 20s not be as enticed by CrossFit as the 30, 40 plus people are is just something to call out and look at when you have things like Hyrox or other sort of like destination or more. like just single day events where they can just go do a high rocks with their friends, and that be that, go run a marathon, go do a 5K, whatever it might be. Like getting people in the gyms, training them towards something, doing the open, registering. Like we see this data then every year, and we can kind of make some of that conversation out of it. For sure.
Love it. What are you seeing in terms of affiliates, Mike? Are we seeing more affiliates or less affiliates each year in the open leaderboard?
It's gone again. Last 3 years, you just see like a peak and then a valley, and then and it starts to peak again, right? For every one of these numbers. So I can say the same thing there. But open or affiliation is also something I check outside of just open time. So I would say over the last 3 years, it was like hovering around 11,000, and now it's more like 9,200. Um, I was checking right before we jumped on, but that number has hovered, especially when it comes to around the open time. People are going to stay an affiliate through the open. So we see that number then sustain through the first half of the year usually, and then we'll see after this. I think the affiliation is in a interesting spot where the parent company is up for sale, the leader isn't there anymore. People are asking a lot of questions of how
Mm.
this whole private equity thing works, which again, it's not my place. I just feed data to people and they can decide on some of that. But that plays a role in how much trust you put in and how many gyms want to put the CrossFit on there versus just calling themselves a community fitness or something like that. And so that plays a role. But as far as open participation this year, I think we had a couple gyms within the one gym was over 500 registrations.
Wow.
There's at least 10 that were in the, I want to say 250 to like 400 range, somewhere around there. And like of those 9,000 or so gyms that I mentioned before, like 8,000 plus or close to 9,000 were um, participating in the open. I mean, I just look at that as like they have one registration, whether that be the owner of the gym or not. They have one registration that somebody did the
Where
open.
was that? Where in the world was that 500 participation gym?
Portugal, I think. It might have been wherever they hosted the event this year. I could be saying that wrong. I think it's
Yeah.
actually I have it right here in front of me. Let me see. It was CrossFit Black Edition in Portugal. 517.
Damn. Good on them. Clearly doing
Yeah,
something right.
right? Yeah, and though so this is where I usually then take things one further. What I track and what I sent actually you for your gym is not only how many did you register, which is great. You're getting people signed up, you're getting them hyped to do it. It's how many
How many
people
took part?
followed through, like participated.
Mm.
Um, I'd love I'd love a conversation with somebody at CrossFit someday of like, hey, make the affiliate participation leaderboard actually based on like how many people you got through all three
Mm.
weeks of the open. Now, things come up. You don't want to be like ticky tacking with like, hey, well, this guy got sick or hurt themselves or whatever else. Let me force them to do the open. But you do see some of these gyms, and I'm not naming any specific one. They got this many registrations, and then it's like, oh, this many people actually did the thing. Like that follow through of like, hey, show up, just show up, like all of those sorts of things.
Mm.
Like put it based on the participation. Now, I saying that, I think our gyms are about 90+%. So that's also just like a, hey, we can do better. But my gyms are like 50 total registrations versus 500. So
Yeah.
they can do what they
I mean,
want.
what do you see? Maybe not specifically just at the affiliate, but in terms of total registrations
Hmm.
versus people who actually do. I don't know if you have
Wow.
these stats, you probably do, but like who actually do week one. So of the 250 plus thousand people, how many people actually registered for 26.1? And then
Hmm.
what does that number look like relative to the people who finished 26.3? Because okay, the reason I ask that question is I'm going to make the
Yeah.
assumption that
Yeah.
those who do 26.3 have also done 26.2. There
Sure.
could be people, of course, who skipped out 26.2 and just did the first and last workout.
Yeah.
But I'd love to know roughly what does that look like?
It's so the view that I love these questions. The view that I'm looking at right now is only people that did it within the four walls of an affiliate gym. But there was
Yeah.
about 230,000 of whatever the total number is that registered that did it at an affiliate. About 210,000 did 26.1. So there is,
210. Pretty good.
yeah,
What's that
so
as
it's
a
pretty good
percentage?
overall. Now you can see certain gyms where it's like, what's their percentage to all that sort of thing. Um, and then you asked about 26.3, which exactly the same way that I look at it. Of that original number, 188,000 did 26.3. So
So from 210,
bit of a
to
fall.
180.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay, my next question was going to be
Hmm.
actually talking about workout, like the
Yeah.
actual workout programming. So
Yeah.
this year, I mean, I think something we've seen over the last, I'd say, a decent number of years is, workout one being very inclusive. A
Hmm.
lot of people partake in it. So I have questions I think about. Number one is open signups post 26.1 being
Mm.
announced.
Yeah.
Right? So like, because I know this, you see this in every competition. People wait for the first workout to be announced. Can I do it or not? And where's that going to leave me on the leaderboard? That's probably more of the question.
Yeah.
And then that's going to dictate whether I sign up. So I would love to know, like, really how much weight does the actual design of the workout have on the signups for the comp? What do you see?
Now, this plays into that what we were talking about before. Like 50% of the registrations happen within the last week or so, or 10 days. But this year there was 20,000 plus that registered after the announcement, but before the
Yeah,
deadline. So that's a pretty sizable number. Now, were those people going to register regardless of the workout if they were given ring muscle ups for time? Then maybe, um, but yeah, I've seen the same thing over the last few years. There's definitely that inclusivity, like just need a dumbbell, just need some floor space. What was it this year? Wall balls and box jumps. So like just need a wall and a box and a ball. Um, but we've also seen, I think it was 23, that it was like that
ring
repeat
muscle up.
workout that you needed everything. You
Yeah,
needed the whole gym basically, a rower and a bar and a wall ball and a ring. Um, so yeah, the last 3 years straight, we've definitely seen that more inclusive, or within the 2 weeks, we definitely see that. And then at that point, they're signed up, so either they're going to do it or not. But yeah, that's a great call out. It was right around like 25,000 signed up that weekend, uh, out of the total. So what is that? 10%, I guess. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I love playing the predicting game every year. We put out some stupid videos each
I like
week
them.
predicting
I
what
like
we think the video workout's going to be.
26.1 is. Yeah, I like them.
Yeah, and
Did you
26.1
hit any?
actually was
Were
pretty
you
damn close.
you were?
Yeah, yeah. I said wall balls. I said wall balls. I said a burpee box jump over, and I said row. So I basically leant into, and I went long. So
Hmm.
I kind of like was pretty close to the time cap. But I basically thought about high rocks, and I think they're going to pick movements that are very
Nice.
high rocks friendly. That's going to like really pull anyone it's going to pull anyone who was
Wow.
initially in CrossFit and had maybe transitioned into high rocks. It's going to pull those guys back. And I thought it's going to be a play on all the high roxers who, the whole battle of who's fitter, give them a chance to actually jump in and actually do a CrossFit workout and prove that, high rocks is a more superior. So that's kind of why I lent on those movements and the
Yeah.
time domain,
What
um,
did you think of the time domain? Because
of workout one.
this is one of the stats that I've been tracking. Yeah. What did you think of the time domain?
I mean, okay, personally, this is the first year that I have not. So out of the three workouts, I didn't complete two out of three of them.
Yeah.
And I would say that normally when you look at, and I would, I'm the top 3 percentile this year.
Mm.
But the top 0.1 percentiles who probably are in exactly the same boat didn't finish 26.1 and didn't finish 26.3. So in terms of time domains relative to the stimulus, I think not being able to complete workouts, I think that can be something that changes to make it even more inclusive because no one wants to be
Hmm.
everyone the feeling of accomplishment and not just participating but finishing is actually a massive pull for a lot of people, right? When people know they're not going to complete a workout, I think that has an impact on whether they're going to do the workout and with everything we're talking about actual open participation. So I
Yeah.
think creating time caps where the elite can crush it and finish it but most of the rest of the world have a chance to have that feeling of crossing a finish line or finishing under a time cap. So that's my one take on like just the
Yeah.
general theme this year. I mean, we had 3 for time workouts. We didn't have any AMRAPs this year, and that is something I don't think we've seen. Because when I predict these workouts, I'm going through all the previous years of like, well, what do we typically see? And
Hmm.
I think like the AMRAP is a mainstay within CrossFit programming. They're
Yeah.
kind of like the ones that kind of brought it in and popularized it. And so I think the fact that we actually didn't have an AMRAP this year, and AMRAPs are great because there is no finishing, like there is no crossing a finish line. We
Yeah.
all cross together, right?
Yeah.
So that wasn't there. Do you mean in terms of the time caps when we look at the overall testing body of the 3, or just workout 1?
No, just kind of, I mean, you definitely touched on all of it, is like that feeling of seeing a workout and then seeing, well, and especially the open announcements that they did with like Dallin Pepper getting time capped or Daniel Brandon getting time capped, where you see like immediately you just see like, oh, there's no chance I'm finishing this. Like,
Yeah.
what is that feeling you're kind of showing to people? Now, I could look at any workout of that and go like, well, I'm not doing whatever they just did. I'm gonna hope to get to the rings, or I'm gonna hope to like get on the other in the 26.1. I'm gonna hope to get on the other side of sort of the pyramid there. So everybody's gonna find a spot within an AMRAP or a 4-time workout and just kind of go like, that's my goal right there. I'm just gonna get there. I'm not Dallin Pepper or Daniel Brennan. Um, but it is interesting to look at when you see a workout where I think I have it here. 11 men finished 26.3.
Wow.
438 women finished it though. And then similarly, 47 men finished 26.1 and 106 women finished 26.1. And then the one in the middle, you touched on it too, is how many athletes finished sub 10 minutes or took the entire time or whatever, somewhere in between. And it was 285 men finished sub 8, 57 women finished sub 8. So like that's the thing that I start to look at, is just finding these like pieces where it's like, okay, well, is there, this starts to play a role in if you're programming for your own competition or what that can look like, is you look at the open and go, hey, am I biasing? And this isn't my thing. There's definitely podcasts and talking heads and great folks when it comes to all this stuff. It's like, am I biasing one gender versus the other? Right. When I program some of this for a competition, I heard Rich Froning say like the got a, like a quadruple scale when they have a lighter ball to a lower target to a lower
Mhm.
box and less to carry over the box with the ball. Is like, am I biasing one or the other? Now, all the women did the same workout, all the men did the same workout, so it doesn't really matter. But if you're talking about fit, like what it looks like to a community in a gym, it's like, okay, well, I didn't get as far as them. Am I less fit than them? It's like, well, no, probably
Mate,
not.
it's a battle of the genders. I
Yeah,
mean, every year in the Open, one of my favorite things to do is basically we create showdowns within our team,
yeah,
and it's all just like bragging rights for next year, and it's guys against girls, and so that conversation still does weigh in because who's fitter, like Ed or Meg?
yeah.
And when you look at the results, and I think actually really interesting. I didn't think to ask you the questions on finishers and general finishing on the workouts.
Hmm.
When we compare genders, but I think there certainly is a feeling of okay. I think the relative scaling, which I think was always gone off from a weight perspective, a weight selection perspective, was always gone off the 70% rule, right? Which I actually believe has been taken from the endurance world where they looked at finishing times within different endurance events, and it looked like, generally speaking, 70% was kind of the sweet spot when you looked at elite male versus female participation, and they kind of carried that scaling over into weight selection. But
Yeah,
that's actually looking more like the scaling gets weird because when you look at the benchmark workouts, they all kind of sit roughly around 70%, but then it's like as loads get heavier, that moves towards 65% and then 60%.
yeah.
So that is very interesting. So what you're saying there is that the number of finishers for 26.1 and 26.3 was exponentially higher for females versus men. And then when you're at 26.2, which obviously had the big bottleneck being ring muscle ups, are you saying that you saw more men finishing
Yeah.
under elite times?
Like five to
Interesting.
one, 5 to 1. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So movement bias is obviously probably play a big
Oh,
part
for
in that
sure.
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But again, it's all men versus men. Now we're gonna compare, or in your gym, if you're throwing down versus Meg, like you're gonna compare, like, wow, she really beat me on that workout. Is there
Well,
something?
she did. She completely crushed me in every single workout, by the way.
Good for her. Is there something off here? Now, it, again, there's plenty better to talk about this, but it is just this is exactly what known and knowable sort of about. Like, I want to feed some of this information so people aren't just saying like, "Man, it really felt like there was a lot more women than men that did well in
Mm,
this workout." It's like, well, yeah, there were. Like, here's the numbers. Discuss. You dive into your programming conversation. You dive into your competition conversation or whatever it might be. Here's the like the numbers that are behind
mm,
that, and then does that follow along with whatever, again, whatever positive or negative thing you want to say about it is okay, what's that, does that track? And this is a great version of like what I was seeing years ago, same sort of thing. It's like, okay, these are great conversations. You're building it off your own feeling at your own gym with your own athletes. Is it true as you go out further and wider? Is does does open data or semifinals or quarterfinals data or anything like that start to play a part in saying like, is that true? Should they move away from a 70%, or at least when it comes to like certain things is like, okay, well, what if there's a 5'11" woman and I'm 6 foot and
mm.
she has a 1 foot less to go? Is like, does that make sense that I'm, or vice versa? You could have a 5'5" guy and a
Yeah.
5'5" woman. And it's like, well, should they both be throwing to 10 feet? Um, Colton Mertens versus Yella Hosta sort of thing is like, you're going to see it, is there's going to be a guy who's a full foot taller than the other guy. It's like, they're still got to do the same things. And that's where CrossFit is cool. And that's where a lot of this data stuff is cool, is that's like, that's what drew me in actually to CrossFit. Like the L1 is, this is a great tangent, is it's measurable and repeatable, right? Like if we do these workouts, these we could, the Open's going to be different every single year. There's repeats every now and then. I was thinking that last week was going to be a repeat. I like the repeats because you can look at the data again and go, did the community get fitter? Did we all sort of figure it out? Or is there something in between? Or like, how did people do one year versus the other? And you can look at that and it's measurable, observable, repeatable, where you can see a Yella Hosta doing it and you can see a Colton Mertens doing it and say, who moved more weight over distance, which is a big part of the L1 and how you sort of measure strength and apply that to fitness is, what does that look like for a 5'5" guy? And I could be saying the height's wrong. And then like a 6 foot plus guy to move a yoke over distance. What does that look like? How does that apply itself? Is like a cool thing to dive into of where a lot of this can go when you're just talking about, wow, he somehow went way. Colton Mertens destroyed everybody on that Open announcement, like, but it was wall balls. Like you would think a taller guy would do better on that, or
And
box
box step
balls.
over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like you'd think it would be a tall guy workout, and the shortest guy there beats everybody by what felt like an eternity. So it's really cool to see that stuff.
Yeah, I love it. I think, as a programmer, um, I think the data, I wish I had more data. Like I wish, making more data informed decisions.
Mhm.
So this, yeah, just motivation for
I'll
you
I'll
keep on
help
doing
you
what
in
you
it anytime, and I'll
keep
apply
doing.
this for anybody that wants to hit me up. Like it's out there. Like there are data points on workouts that went well, whatever workout you want to look at that's ever been done before, you can see, and this is what is again great about open quarterfinals, semifinals games, is we have this applied with a very strong base of how did that workout go? Where did people get stuck? Where did it show weakness? Where did it show strength? And just being able to apply that. And then obviously the hopper, if you want to then mix that up and do wall balls and rowing and whatever else you came up with, um, you can just start to figure that out, what that looks like. Same thing goes for gyms and open or coaches and athletes. Like the data doesn't just have to live on CrossFit.com. That's definitely where I source it from. But if you want to see that for your gym or for your athlete that you're coaching and say, hey, they did these workouts in this period of time, they did these workouts going into quarterfinals, semifinals. If they're games athletes, like getting all of that and applying it is like also a huge can be a huge help to these athletes or these coaches or these gyms, and being able to really show like, hey, did my gym get fitter? Now doing different workouts and different days of the week and whatever else, like it's always hard to tell, but like, did my gym get fitter? Didn't we get more participants? Did we have more people doing RX versus scaled? Like all that lives out there, and we just see like a very, yeah, one page of a leaderboard. How did it look? Sort of feeling to it.
Love it. Mike, I actually haven't asked you a big question. Men versus women. What does it look like in the open?
55% men, 45% women. I don't know. I don't recall how close that's been. But yeah, that's basically. But that's of it's always there's always a caveat. That's of like the what is it ever 16 to 54 range. When you go outside of that, it it still applies, but they're not counted the same way. So, well, they all count, but like I think boys and girls 14 to 15 is both like similar numbers and percentage. Like closer to 50-50. Like
Mm.
70. I built this website. This is this AI thing that we were talking about. I built a website in like an hour that counts all of this up, does all those breakdowns of all of like how many people finish the workout, all of that in like an hour, just because I asked AI to go count it all up for me. So that's what actually I'm looking at as we talk right now. But yeah, it was like a near perfect split, 70 plus, 740 men, 739 women.
Wow, love it. Mike, what, if any, were the stats from this year's Open that made you go like, whoa, I didn't expect to see that?
I think it really was that breakdown that we were talking about is how many people finished the workout. Like
Mm.
and just seeing it sway one way and then sway back is seeing how many women finished versus men, and then how many men had lower times than women, and then sway back the other way again. But also, I was surprised at the number that were returned, and that it's, well, I don't want to say like that I'm shocked in any way, but like I saw a bigger number coming back, but that also they gained in net new users or athletes, I would say. Um, that was honestly really good to see. Again, owning a gym, you want this whole thing to do well. So
Yeah,
um, you want to see people within your radius like be excited about this. Whether they're excited to do it at your gym or the gym down the street, you honestly just want them to be excited about it, because that means the whole thing is building in some way.
yeah, yeah. Everyone wins.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, this has been great.
Yeah.
This has been very, very good. There's a question I came into this whole podcast with, which was asking what, whether the data is telling us that CrossFit is growing or CrossFit is shrinking.
Hmm.
And based purely on statistics and everything that you track, what is your answer to that question?
I mean, just factually, it's growing. I would say if you want to have 2015, 2018 back, I don't see that coming back, at least under the current, just what they've done the last 4 or 5 years. And that's not talking about leadership. That's just talking about stats and like open registration and all that. Is It's growing at a rate that I think is good, but it's not jumping up the graph like straight up to the right. Um, and I don't know that that's a bad thing. It's just people like nostalgia. So like they want to see 2018 400,000 plus people do it again. So it's, if you're looking at it on a macro view, it's still not what it was. But if you're looking at it versus last year, it's great. Yeah.
Love it. Mike, this has been fantastic. Thank you so
Hmm.
much for joining me and geeking out over all this stuff.
Anytime.
To wrap it up, where can people find out more about you
Mhm.
and all the good work that you're doing?
Known underscore knowable is the Instagram. I've changed a little bit. I just covered the Wadapalooza. We're going to be doing WFP together, so I will be there. It's the Open is obviously a big conversation, and that's something I'm going to be posting a good bit about in the next few weeks. Quarterfinals is coming up. We have some people doing it at our gym. Um, I do have CrossFit Fairfield, Cornerstone Fitness are my two gyms. If you're ever in the Cincinnati, Westchester, northern Cincinnati area, uh, anytime, Ed, just come on by. But yeah, that is what I'm doing.
Love it, Mike. Well, I'm looking forward to doing London with you at World Fitness
Yes.
Project and having more of these chats. Keep on doing all the amazing work that you do with Knowable. And until next time, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Ed.
Before we say goodbye, here's one crazy statistic for you. Did you know that almost 40% of people who listen to the show don't actually subscribe to it? Now, I didn't think that was a big deal until I actually learned about the power of hitting subscribe. For you, the listener, you get to stay up to date when we drop episodes on a weekly basis. But for us as a podcast, it really helps our visibility and helps us attract great brands and great listeners to help grow this podcast. So if you enjoyed this episode or you're a big fan of the show, please do us a massive favor and hit subscribe. Thank you so much.